Yeah, I think we're live now, Victoria.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome for coming to our webinar on digital marketing for lawyers. I am Victoria Stewart. I'm the CEO of Stewart, and Andrew is going to be doing the main presentation, and a partner at Simmonds, Stewart, and also the driving force behind our digital marketing strategy. Andrew is super passionate about this, and he has transformed our business using digital marketing. So I know he's very excited to share his insights with you. I'm going to be handing over to Andrew soon, and my role will largely be just to take the mickey out of him, which I enjoy doing very much. For the lawyers out there that want to claim CPD, we have now set up a button on our website to enable you to click it to get a CPD letter. So what you need to do is go onto the page that you registered for this webinar, and there will be a button at the bottom. If you click on that and you have actually attended, you need to pop in your email address, make sure it's the same email address that you used when you registered, and we will flick you out a CPD letter. So over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Victoria. Victoria, if you could put your sound on mute, that would be good, because there's quite a lot of echo coming from your end. So hopefully I'm a bit not quite as echoey in our Wellington office, which is a bit quieter. Victoria's doing this in Auckland. And somebody has a question about whether this is going to be recorded. Yes, we record all of our webinars, and they're available to watch just on the webinar page, or the webinar page of our website. So jumping into the presentation, we've called this digital marketing for lawyers, but it's really applicable to anyone that is trying to grow a services business. And the traditional approach for business development for lawyers and for services businesses has been very much about personal brand, personal connections, networking, and word of mouth referrals. And that's essentially what people are taught in law firms is the way to go about building a client base and the practice and the route to business success, I suppose. And this tends to involve lots of coffee meetings with influencers, referrers, prospects, relatives, if you've got relatives that are useful for you for business development purposes. I don't. Old school chums, I don't have any of those as well. And from time to time, meeting with, I guess, pitching in on RFPs and that sort of thing when they are sent out to lawyers. And that's an effective way to build a business. And certainly that's the approach I took for most of my career in private practice. But it's not very scalable. It's very dependent on the amount of time that you can personally put into those activities, networking and that sort of thing, or speaking at conferences, I suppose, or that sort of thing. Whereas digital marketing is scalable because one piece of marketing content that you put out on the internet is going to just live on and on and on, and it's going to be working for you whether or not you awake, asleep, whether you're churning out billable hours or whether you've actually got your feet up, or whether you're skiing in Wanaka. The great thing about digital marketing is it's not constrained at all about whether you're on the job or how many of you that there actually are. Renee's just asking, can we see you? No, I don't believe we have that facility. If we did, it would be quite entertaining, I suppose, but no, we can't see you. You can just see us. So essentially, the way we like to describe it is, at Simmonds Stewart, is coffee doesn't scale. You can definitely get clients by going to have coffee with them, and you can drink a lot of coffee and get a lot of clients, but that's ultimately limited by how much time you've got to spend drinking coffee or how much your bladder can actually take of that. So the alternative is digital marketing, and there's two main types of digital marketing, and there can be some debate, I guess, into under which headings particular kind of digital activity falls. This is the way we see it. Some digital marketers would say it differently, but it probably doesn't matter that much to be splitting hairs. The most effective kind of digital marketing for service providers is what's called inbound marketing. It's finding ways to bring visitors to your website and to consume content on your website, and then to generate new business leads that way. And this is often referred to as content marketing. You have content on your website, Google finds that content and presents it up to people in search results. People come to your website, consume the content, and then think you're awesome and contact you about legal work, put simply. So inbound is all about bringing people to you, enticing people to your site, to your marketing, branding, presence, into your world, where, of course, you know, on your website, you're awesome. It's not about pushing advertising out to people. So outbound marketing, which, you know, is still an important part of digital marketing, is more about pushing your message out to people. Usually, or the most common way of doing that is via email, email marketing campaigns, be they newsletters or special offers or that sort of thing, or spam, if you take it far enough. We would tend to see paid advertising like Google AdWords, Facebook and LinkedIn, paid advertising as forms of outbound marketing, because you're putting an ad out there in the world and hoping to bring people to you through that sort of pushed material. You can split hairs about whether or not that's outbound, but that's the way we tend to think of it. So why should lawyers care about this? I mean, it is true that you can build up a decent sized business the traditional way, and once you've got that business, it tends to be quite sticky. But certainly over the 20 or so, in fact more, 22 years I've been in private practice, really the hardest thing has never been about doing legal work, although that can be hard and tiresome at times. Actually, the hardest thing is knowing where your next sort of hour of billable units is coming from. And as you progress in your career, that gets harder and harder, because you're not only having to fill your own timesheet, you're having to fill the timesheets of, you know, all the juniors you have working for, and as you get even more senior, for senior associates and other partners in your firm. And trying to build a book of business or a client base or a stream of work for 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 people when you're getting into more decent sized firms, just by traditional marketing means, is really hard. And it doesn't, the other thing about it is it's hard because you have to keep doing it. I mean, we certainly at Simmonds, Stewart and other lawyers I know talk about the hamster wheel. And obviously you've got the hamster wheel of your timesheets you've got to keep ticking over every day, but filling your book of work via traditional marketing means is also a hamster wheel. You've got to be continually having coffee, catching up with people, sending people emails, and networking, going to conferences and that sort of thing. And it's extremely time consuming. The other thing you find about that is there tends to be, you know, a small number of people that are good at that, or that actually are willing to do it, because it's not necessarily everyone's idea of fun. And lots of people aren't good at it or don't like doing it, or a combination of the two. So the load tends to fall disproportionately on a few people. Whereas digital marketing is something that everyone in a firm can get involved in. It helps you reach potential new clients that you have no possible way of meeting or bumping into for coffee, because you don't know who they are. And that's the thing about digital marketing, it allows you to reach people with potential legal needs that you don't even know exist. And it helps you build a brand in your firm or in your business that exists quite independently of the brands of individual lawyers and partners. And that's very important, particularly in smaller to medium-sized firms, because, you know, Simmonds Stewart's a firm of 13 lawyers at the moment. If one sort of senior lawyer left, and then the only way we got business was through the individual efforts of those partners, then that would be quite a blow for us to lose a partner. Whereas our goal is to build a brand, the Simmonds Stewart brand, focused on technology law and working for technology companies, that exists really independently from the personal brands of our lawyers and partners, and that is actually allows us to get work when that isn't dependent, I suppose, on personal relationships. The other thing about brand building and digital marketing that's going to be more and more important in the future, and it's a feature already in Australia and the States and the United Kingdom, it's not very much in New Zealand, but it will be, is that more and more traditional law firms are going to be competing with online legal businesses or businesses with legal-related businesses with online models. And so if you look in Australia, you have LawPath and Legal Vision, who are competing very aggressively for market share online and servicing clients through online, finding and servicing clients through online techniques. They're very hard to compete with in the acquisition of new businesses, those companies, because they're very good at digital marketing and acquiring new customers. And for law firms that are just relying on coffee or school connections or that sort of thing, they're going to struggle, I believe, to keep up with those businesses. And this is going to be more the case when there's more use of technology to deliver legal services, and particularly deliver legal services via the internet. It's all very well to have cool tools to do legal work and cool software and cool SaaS solutions, but if you can't actually connect with potential users of that, it's pretty irrelevant. So part of the effort that Simmonds Stewart's putting into building our business around or using digital marketing is so that we have an audience for our firm that as we develop or as new products and services come online using technology, we've got a ready way to market them. Trying to do it the other way around is very hard. And, we see this a lot amongst our client base of startup companies. So I thought I'd just talk a little bit, and Victoria might want to chime in a bit here, if she, or if she's got some perspectives on things about how we got involved in this journey. So a bit over 6 years ago, Simmonds Stewart had been running for 6 years, and we had a decent small law firm in Wellington, and over 50% of our work was coming from the public sector. We got a lot of that from GETS, but also from relationships with people in government, and it was
more so relationships.
Sorry, Victoria.
More so relationships.
Yeah.
More so relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly the relationships helped us win work on GETS, and it was pretty comfortable. We had to work hard to get the work that we got, but we were always managing to keep the hamster wheel turning, and this sort of, I guess, was an extrapolation of the work that Victoria and I were doing at Buddle Finlay before we left to set up Simmonds Stewart, and we really didn't look any different from any other small law firm, and you could have transported us into a corporate team or a commercial team of any of the other Wellington law firms, and it kind of wouldn't have looked out of place what we were doing and the way we were building the business, because we just carried on doing the things we'd been done at Buddle Finlay. So we had 3 partners, 3 employed lawyers and an office manager, and in that month of August we issued 40 invoices to 28 clients, more than 50% of our fees from the public sector. All of our clients are New Zealand based, and one client had come from an internet search or from a Google search. Now, that chap was very determined to find a lawyer like us, because I think we were on page 7 of the Google search that he did. So that would be quite an unusual case. And I mean, I know that's my first ever customer I got from the internet, because I was very curious as to how he found us, and he did explain that that's how he got there. In August 2000. In 2012, we had not managed to get onto the All of Government legal panel. We were still doing quite a lot of government work, because it took a while for the tail of work to sort of peter out there. And we were really faced with a challenge that we'd had this comfortable business model, but that business model had kind of gone. And we needed to really do something very different. We could have just stopped altogether, and we did talk about that. We could have gone back to a big firm. We had some options there, or we could grab the bull by the horns and actually address the things that were wrong with our business that made us so vulnerable to a single shock like not getting onto the All of Government panel. And what we realised had made us so vulnerable was that we were very reliant on those personal relationships and government tendering to get the chunkier business, and we didn't have a brand per se. We had a bunch of relationships, and as it turned out, when the people we had relationships were not involved in that all of government judging, we had no brand to fall back on or reputation that would carry us through. So we decided to do something about that. We decided to rebrand the firm around being a technology law firm and to build a presence on the internet that helped us to get work independently of personal relationships and that underpinned a general business development activity. And it's been successful really beyond our wildest dreams, and some of the things that have happened we certainly wouldn't have predicted, but I guess with the benefit of hindsight, they seem logical. We now have an office in Auckland, an office in Wellington, an office in Singapore, 5 partners and 8 employed lawyers, an office manager, and a digital marketer that's, a grad role, so, not a big role. We went from issuing a very small number of invoices for relatively chunky amounts to issuing 184 invoices in a last month billing cycle to 120 clients, and that's quite a dramatic difference because 6 years ago it was 40 invoices to 28 clients, and now less than 5% of our fees come from the public sector, and our fees from the private sector are greater than 500% of what our private sector billings were in 2012. I mean, it'd be great if our fees had gone up 500% in total since then, but we've been having to catch up for all that we lost. 63% of our clients are based in New Zealand, the rest are overseas. And most of those overseas companies, we're not helping them with work in New Zealand, we're helping them with work internationally, which is, as I say, that's one of the things I wouldn't have predicted, but it certainly made our business a lot more robust and has really underpinned the importance of having a digital brand and a method for marketing the firm digitally, because we never would have had that with that business without that. And 25% of our clients by number have originated solely from the website. So they found us on a Google search or via some other digital property, but mostly Google search, and have come to us and have ended up giving us instructions and paying our bills with no other knowledge of our firm. So no other referral or that sort of thing. It's probably fair to say, yeah.
Hey. Oh, sorry, I was just going to interrupt and say that this is a bit of an aside, but it's not just about client acquisition. Our Singapore office, which is a major growth area for us, and a partner that currently runs that office, Lee Bagshaw, he was working in Singapore, and as a result of our digital marketing strategy and how we were placed on the internet, he actually found us and approached us and then came to work for Simmonds Stewart. So actually we're obviously talking about client acquisition, but it can be a very useful tool for actually building your brand in terms of us getting new staff members, new partners, and growing your practice that way too.
Abel Dixon Abel Dixon joining us, who's the 5th partner of the firm, was the same, that she became aware of us through our online activity, and that led to conversation and her joining us from Simpson Grierson. And both Lee and Averill have grown our client base significantly with clients that they brought in because they had their own brands. Those clients aren't included in that 25% originated from the internet. In terms of, it's also, obviously 75% of our clients have still come from traditional means. However, the brand building we've done has made it much, much easier to acquire clients or new clients through traditional means. 6 years ago, if I went to a conference or if I was at an event or talking to other lawyers, I always had to explain who we were because no one had heard of us. And now, certainly in the wider technology sector, but also in the legal community, our brand is just so well known that and thought of as being innovative and offering added value and that sort of thing. It just makes the whole process of personal selling that much easier. And also, I don't need to try and explain what I do. I talk about the firm that I work at, and that's very good for our junior lawyers because they can, they're not so dependent on talking about their experience, which is less than mine. They can talk about what the firm does. It resonates with people they're talking to, and that helps them to actually acquire clients with the firm, which is important to us. We want our young people to, to learn to find and onboard clients. It's satisfying, and it also is part of the process of being independent as a lawyer. The more of your own clients you have, or more client relationships you have, an ability to actually bring in work, the more independent you are, and that's awesome. In terms of contrasting the performance of our website, so in August 2012, we had 236 people visiting our site, or 236 visits. Probably some of them were my mum and Victoria's mum. And now in August 2018, we had 9,198 visits. The page views are, not that different. The time on site isn't that different. The bounce rate, a bounce is somebody who only looks at one page and then leaves. That's not as good now as what it was, but that's predictable because people were only coming to our site to actually very specifically look at us, as opposed to now people come to our site to look at a specific piece of content, and once they've consumed that content, then they'll go off somewhere else. In terms of the traffic sources, in August, 140 of our visits were from Google. Organic means Google search. And in 2018, some 6,000 or so were from organic. Non tends to mean that people have typed in your address into the search bar or have clicked that, like they might have bookmarked you. And in terms of, those proportions are roughly the same, but the great thing about those stats from our point of view is organic search, just Google search, is delivering a huge amount of traffic. We're not dependent on listings in directories or on other people's sites or on the Law Society promoting us or that sort of thing. And this page might be, how easy are those numbers to read on your screen, Victoria?
They are very small.
I'm going to post these slides on this Procast thing so people will be able to download it. But the most accurate measure of traffic to websites is Alexa rank, and this allows you to compare how your site is performing versus other law firm sites. And we have a global Alexa rank for Simmonds Stewart of something like 430,000, so we're 430,000th most traffic site in the world. I think the next highest in New Zealand is Chapman Tripp at 1.4 million, and it kind of tails off from there. So we get a lot more traffic than any other New Zealand law firm by some order of magnitude. It's not that hard to go from 1.4 million to a million. It's a lot harder to go from a million to 500,000. It's kind of logarithmic Anyway, it's much harder. The lower the numbers, the harder it is to make gains. But the other thing we track is not just our performance against the other law firms in New Zealand, but also the new law sites, which is the numbers on the right. And so lawpath.com.au in Australia has an Alexa rank of 315,000 or so. They're quite a successful law site that is backed by Norton Rose in Australia. Legal Vision, who have an offering that's probably the most similar to ours, do a lot of their marketing on the internet and have a lot of free templates, free guides and that sort of thing, but they still are a law firm. And their Alexa rank is 121,000, and that's probably about the same as DLA Piper internationally. And if you think about how many offices DLA Piper has around the world, that's quite incredible that Legal Vision is able to get that level of traffic to their site. It's very hard to get into the 100,000s. I have spoken with Legal Vision about their numbers, and they don't do any paid advertising. It's all content marketing, and they publish something like 2 or 3 blogs a day. They have independent investment, which is possible in Australia. It's not in New Zealand, but they've spent millions of dollars building up their digital marketing platform, and it's very, very successful in terms of generating client leads. They generate far more, orders of magnitude more contact requests than we do, although they are targeting a different market to us. Interestingly, Zeagle, who tried getting off the ground in New Zealand, they're not a law firm. They provide automated legal documents for small businesses and that sort of thing. They're out of Hong Kong. They've got a Alexa rank of 390,000, which is not that different to us. They tried to launch in New Zealand, and I'm sure it's been a total flop for them because they would have got no traffic. We would have sucked all that up. And Lawhawk there, Gene Turner's site is up at 2.2 million, and that's pretty good when you consider that Gene is, Lawhawk's a couple of people. He's getting a level of traffic that, is the equal of quite a lot of the large law firms, and that will certainly be delivering business to Gene. I haven't talked to him recently about his return on that, but I know he's had a lot of focus on bringing clients to his site, and Gene's been able to do that without external investment. It should be of concern to the big law firms that, small operations like Simmonds, Stewart or Lawhawk can actually generate a huge amount of traffic, because as our products and services get more sophisticated, that's going to start taking business from the large firms. And if we have a really aggressive capital-backed entrant like LawPath, Legal Vision or a Rocket Lawyer from the States, then, that could really start hurting law firms here. So what does this turn into? Does it actually turn into work? And I have skepticism about that when I talk about people. Well, it does. We get contact requests on our website that people, read our content, read our blogs, look at our templates, and they email us and say, can we help them with their legal work? And, probably half of them don't come to anything. But the other half, end up with us doing work, billing people, virtually always getting paid, which was a worry for us for a while. And some of these have actually turned out to be quite significant clients for our business. So some of them are small. I thought I would just quickly read some of these contact requests that I've put up here. And so the first one was somebody looking for legal support to assist, review purchase agreements, update online terms and that sort of thing. This person was in Auckland and they found out about us online. The next was a Singapore one. We need your assistance drafting founders agreement and shareholders agreement as per Singapore laws from India. And that did turn out to be quite a good job or an ongoing relationship. We can't help with Singapore laws because we're a foreign law firm in Singapore. But when we narrowed down what they actually wanted, which was to help with flipping companies to domicile in Singapore to get venture capital there, that was exactly what we do. This person here, next person saying, thank you for making available supplier-friendly B2B services agreement. And can you let me know an indicative cost for your lawyers to review what I've done? And this person was in fielding. We'd never meet anyone in fielding that, and they gave us a job. We would have got paid for that. Somebody raising seed fund in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, that did turn into a job, even though the Asian contact requests tend to have less information than the Kiwi ones. Sometimes doing something quite simple like that turns into work for us. And the one from Jakarta is very similar to what other requests we get, incorporating business in or startup in Jakarta, incorporating in Singapore to get investment, already got investors lined up, need help negotiating terms. The stuff I highlighted, there's some things that excite us and things that we always laugh about. So this person said, I've already have investors lined up there. And so that's awesome because it means there's money to pay us. But then he says, I'm new to this and would appreciate experienced law firm and reasonable prices for startups. So it probably about 20% of the people or 30% of the people that contact us do mention price and like, and are hoping that we're going to be cheap. And, that I guess is part of the game of acquisition of new business, that often people are price sensitive when they're shopping around for lawyers, and that's something that we just have to juggle as part of it. So I guess that's about what we've achieved with this and the kind of results we're getting. But what hopefully is of more interest to people is, well, how do you actually do this yourself? And at its core, digital marketing and content marketing for lawyers is quite a simple thing. There is a magic formula, and actually it's not that hard. You can all do it. That you need to work out keywords that are relevant to your audience. You need to create content that includes those keywords, and you need to put it on your website. Once it's on your website, Google will crawl it, and Google will index that content, and Google will start to show that content in search results that when people are searching for things that are relevant to your keywords. And searchers will click on the links if they think they're relevant, and they'll read your content. And provided people do click on the links and do read your content and don't click off in 2 seconds because you scammed them to get to your site, the Google algorithm will reward you. So Google will reward you for providing some content that somebody clicked through to, that they read and engaged with in some way, and that might be just staying on the site for a certain amount of time. And then because the Google algorithm rewards you, it'll list your content higher in future search results, not just for that specific piece of content, but for other content on your site. And so there's kind of a really virtuous or cycle of virtuosity or something like that that's referred to by people in the web or e-commerce world as Google juice. If Google likes your content, you get Google juice. Google juice means you get more, you get displayed more in search results, and you get displayed higher. Therefore, more people click on your site. You get more traffic to your site. That means Google's algorithm rewards you more, because it goes around, and you get more and more traffic. The other thing you can do to accelerate this is you can promote your content, and you particularly need to do this in the early days. Just relying on Google to index and list your content is a pretty slow way to do it. If you promote your content via whatever means, social media, and I'll talk about ways to promote your content a bit further on. If you promote your content and people come and consume it on your site, Google tracks that as well. It doesn't only track the people that go there via Google, it tracks all visits to your site. And when searchers click on the links from your promoted content and read your content, Google rewards you, and the Google juice grows, and that's how you go from 240 visits to 6.5 or whatever it was, 7,000 visits in a month. Guys asked, will slides be given to us via email? I'll just post them. I'll just post these slides via a link on this Crowdcast, just in the box here. Finn could do that actually. Finn, while we're talking, or possibly I'll have to email that or get Finn. Finn may not have access to the. Yeah, Finn's giving me a thumbs up there, and Finn's our digital marketing dude, and the
So, I mean, the other thing that I'm not sure you've mentioned is that, of course, the Google juice, as you increase your Google juice, you jump up, you jump from page 7 to page 6 to page 5 to suddenly you're top of page 1, which Andrew will talk about a bit more later.
Your goal is to get to be on the first page and to be the first site listed for your keywords. So I'll try and explain. I was quite confused about what keywords were. I thought that they were something that you actually had to, that sat behind your site, that there was some secret place that you typed in your keywords, and that that was what it was. And there was like a keyword entry tool. There isn't. They're just short words and phrases that appear on a web page or within a piece of content, and which are relevant to the services that you offer, and which you think, because you can't know, your customers will be searching for when they want to find out about services of that kind, or they want products or services of that kind. So a key keyword for us is startup lawyers. And that's a service that we provide. A piece of content that's related to that, that's also a keyword, is startup company legal guide or startup company legal basics. For quite a long time, when we first did this site, when we first redid our site 6 years ago, we didn't use the word startup lawyers. We used, what was it, Victoria, high growth or fast growth companies or something. And we weren't getting any traffic.
I can't remember. It's an American
phrase.
Yeah,
so we thought it was better to use this American phrase, and no one really searched for that, so we didn't get any traffic from using that phrase, and it meant that part of that page of our website wasn't very well visited. Meanwhile, Buttle Finlay had some good materials that used the phrase startup quite a bit with lawyers in it, and Buttle Finlay always appeared number one when you search startup lawyers, and that really bugged me because I used to be a partner there, and for God's sake, we were startup lawyers. That's what we did. But Google doesn't know that. All Google knows is what's on your website. What are the words on your website? You can interpret images to a certain extent, but it's not very good at it. So what are the words on your website? And when people search for certain words or phrases, and they then click on your website as a consequence, do people stay and consume the content? I mean, it's more sophisticated than that, but that's the base of it. What is content? So keywords are just phrases, right? They're just they're simple words or short phrases that are relevant to the services that you provide or to things that, I'll stop there. Content is web pages, it's blogs, it's ebooks, guides, videos, free legal templates, document makers that the tools, I suppose, that provide information of interest to potential customers that's relevant to the services you offer. So it has to be relevant to the services you offer. It has to contain your keywords. So it could be your services page on your website, which is a type of content. It describes the services that you provide, or it could be content that's informative to people. So our Basics for Startups guide is a piece of content that's given us 6 years of traffic, or a template shareholders agreement. And we've used a bit about keywords and about how to work out what they are and that sort of thing. So there isn't any scientific way to work out what keywords you do. I found this difficult when I was getting out on this journey. Because I like to know the answer as a lawyer, and there isn't really an easy way to find the answer as to what your keywords should be. The first thing you have to think about is, what are the words that I want to use to describe my services, or things that are relevant to my services that people can come and read about on my site. So if you're a divorce lawyer, for instance, the words divorce lawyer, matrimonial, property, settlement, things like that would be keywords that you would use. You then have to work out whether the way you think about yourself, and therefore the way you describe what you do, whether that's the way Google searches, i.e. your potential customers, would use it. So that was the mistake we made when we talked about high growth law or high growth companies or something like that. Another one is TMT. Lawyer. I was just reading somebody's comment there. I'm getting distracted. So Chambers and Legal 500 refer to quite a lot of what Simmonds Stewart does as TMT law, but the only people that would ever search for that phrase would be in-house counsel or other lawyers, other private practice lawyers, and even in in-house counsel, it would be probably people from England. It's not in New Zealand you'd refer to IT lawyer, but actually business people and non-lawyers wouldn't even use IT lawyer. They'd talk about software lawyer or something like that. So you have to try and put yourself, when you're thinking about the keywords you want to focus on, having on your website as the things that your customers will be looking for and that they will most associate with you, or the kind of things that they can find on your site. The easiest way to get the, I'm learning something here because somebody's referring to Neil Patel's site to research keywords, and I don't know that one, so I'm going to be on to that as soon as this is over. I mean, I've tried a bunch of different sites for researching keywords, but because, you know, we're quite a tightly focused law firm, we can actually learn quite a lot on Google. And it pays to go into incognito mode, which if you haven't done that before, you press Control. When you're in your Chrome browser, I don't know how to do it on other sites. When I'm in my Chrome browser, you go Control N, and then your screen kind of goes, or your Google browser goes a bit black and changes color, and then it doesn't remember your browsing history. The problem with researching keywords when you're in your normal browser is it's distorted by prior searches. So it will tend to be biased towards the things that you've searched and clicked on in the past. So this snip that I've got here on the right is in incognito mode and searching venture capital lawyers. And Simmonds Stewart there is number 1 and number 2. And Simpson Grierson is number 3. And, you know, I can assure you that that was not easy to achieve. That's a result of 6 years of, you know, of refining our website and our content and promoting our content. But it is possible to get to number 1 in New Zealand, and it just requires consistency and focus. And it does get you business because Aussie venture capital firms or Singapore or Hong Kong venture capital firms do search for venture capital lawyers when they're looking for lawyers in New Zealand. And it at least is one thing that kind of builds our reputation, even though obviously Simpson Grierson would say they're a much more bigger, more credible firm than us. We disagree, but well, about the credible part. But it's quite important when you're doing this to try variations. So to start with, when you're starting out in this, you quite often have to have some geographic element to your search. So it might be venture capital lawyers NZ, venture capital lawyers Auckland even, and that you'll find that you do better in your search results when you have that extra element to it. But even small variants like venture capital lawyers or venture capital lawyer can return different results, and you just have to play around with this. Now, when you get a bit more sophisticated, you can use sites like Moz or possibly this Patel site to actually have permanent tracking of particular keywords and see how your ranking is changing over time. I found that quite a bit overwhelming trying to make sense of that data, and it was also quite expensive. So we've tended over time just to move towards just sort of periodic manual testing. But
I think sorry, Andrew, I was going to say the other thing is, and apologies if you already said that, I just had to jump off to tell people now this next week I should. You've really got to put yourself in the minds of your clients, because how we as lawyers think we might describe something that people will search on is not necessarily how someone who's not a lawyer would describe it. So, it's very important that you not think about things the way you as a lawyer would think about it, but put yourself in the client's shoes to think about, well, what are the phrases that they're probably going to plug into the internet to try and find the information.
Yeah. So, I mean, quite small differences can matter. And so in this case, I've searched legal templates NZ on the left, and we've come up second. And I don't, we want to come first in everything that we think is relevant to us. So that's something to work on. Whereas if it's free legal templates NZ, we come first and second, which is, a more appropriate result from my perspective. And now the way I'd address this is I'd probably if I'm not getting the results I want on my site over time, how do I fix that? Well, I might change the way my keywords are used on my site to actually target the words I'm missing out on. And that's what I did with the Buddle Finlay startup example, that if you search startup lawyers NZ, I'm positive we'll come first. And that took us changing the way we described our services to use the keyword startup all over the website in order to get get a win on that one. Interestingly, there's somebody called something or other. Her surname is Startup. She's a lawyer in Nelson. She's not a startup lawyer, but her name's sort of like Naismith Startup, and she does very well on these search rankings. So she must get a lot of people asking her about startups. So, perhaps we should employ her. So with keywords, it's sort of like sprinkling the magic dust. You shouldn't overdo it. And this will give you an example, a concrete example of how we think of keywords. So, and keywords that are useful to us. So this is a snip of our website. Under the Simmonds Stewart, which is the main header, we've got Singapore. Now, that word Singapore interacts with the word lawyers. So where I've not given a continuous underline, Google doesn't read this like a person would read it. It actually puts these words together in ways that they weren't necessarily, they don't read like a sentence. So Singapore legal templates would go together. Hopefully free and lawyers doesn't go together. But Google doesn't just read things sort of literally. And the phrases on this page that give us a lot of traffic are legal templates, free legal templates, technology lawyers, startup lawyers, capital raising and capital raising lawyers, a bit of M&A and M&A lawyers. For a while we're number one ahead of Russell McVeigh and John Strager there, and I did for a while like to tweet that, atting Russell McVeigh and Chapman Tripp, but I stopped doing that when we dropped out a number one position there. And we've obviously, with these free legal templates, shareholders agreement, confidentiality agreement, SaaS agreement, these are phrases people search for. They're not phrases about what we do. They're actually content that people can come and consume on our website that's relevant to the legal services that we provide. And so people come and consume that content. They learn that we know a lot about those topics, and if and when they need legal help in relation to those topics, our mind, Simmonds Stewart is hopefully top of mind. So Shelley's said, you're free to,
Yeah, I can answer that if you like, Andrew. So Shelley's just asked a question about free legal templates for PDFs. Do they clients find them useful? Can they edit them? Why not Word documents? We did originally only release them in PDFs, and you had to have an account to access the Word version. Now all of our templates are available in both Word and PDF, so they're fully editable by anyone who downloads them, and it's fair to say that people find them very useful, and obviously the editing feature is super handy.
You have to give the most thought, I think, to your homepage, because Google gives a lot of emphasis to your homepage in terms of search rankings. The further you go down the hierarchy of your site, the less Google juice the page gets. So this is, but you do have to sprinkle it all over your site nonetheless. So this is our services page. Now you'll see, our startup services page. You'll see that I've highlighted in the address bar something, which you probably can't read, but it says startup lawyers. So that is actually part of the title of the page. And Google likes it if a search phrase that somebody is searching for is in the title of a page and is then within the page. So you'll see we've got startup lawyers everywhere. And we've got a kind of bunch of other words that I've highlighted in there, keywords that are also useful, capital raising, tech startups, investors, VCs, which are, people search for VC lawyer, and because we've got the word lawyer in there, those things tend to combine. And so then, the next thing is you've got to add your content. So, if all you do is have a nice site that describes your services, you're not going to get that far. I mean, it's better than nothing, but you really need to add content that people want to come and consume on your site that establishes you as it doesn't need to establish you as anything. People come and consume content on your site. If it's relevant to your services, then people have learned about you. And if they have a need for your legal services, then they can contact you. From the perspective of our site, all content is freely available. you do have to log on for doc makers, but that's only because you get an account and you can go back to your document, to documents that you've made and reuse them. But we don't spam anyone, and we don't force you to give an email address in order to get content and then start spamming people with newsletters and that sort of thing, or offers. We found that's quite counterproductive, that people get pissed off with it, and it actually just reduces adoption. But that's our philosophy, I guess. We've got a very open sense of content, and that fits with our target audience, the tech community, who particularly don't like being spammed, and they like people that are community-minded. I know that Legal Vision, who are addressing the small business community, which is obviously a much broader sector, and that's probably much more transactional, they're the opposite, that their content requires sign-ups, and they are, having signed up for some of their content and used it, they've got some document makers as well. They spam you pretty aggressively afterwards. Now, that works for them. I know it does, because I've talked to them about it, and we've sort of compared notes about our two approaches. But for me, I feel better about our way of doing it. So, you can see under our resources page, you need to make your content findable. So, we've listed webinars, document makers, templates, blogs, guides, and case studies. And so there's a lot of content there. You don't need that much. You can just have a blog or guides, or ebook. Guides could be ebook downloads, or they could be native HTML. But it has to impart information to people about topics that are of interest. And then that's what Google loves. Google will reward you if people come and consume that content. Now, you have to have a way for people to contact you. That's really important. Trying to improve the way in which people are enticed to contact you of their own accord on the website is really important. And we've mucked around with this a lot. That now with the contact us on the right appears all over the site, and we've found good results from that. We also have a sign up, the newsletter sign up thing that's getting better results if we've played around with where it is on the site. So Legal Vision, who, although we've got a slightly different approach to them, I'd really encourage you to have a look at their site as the future of kind of law firm marketing alongside the Simmonds Stewart site. And you'll see some similarities. Now, they've got a lot of content, and their strategy is to put out 2 to 3 blogs a day. How they think of the topics, I don't know. They fire these out to different email lists, and they get awesome Google traffic, and they get an awesome amount of leads through that. They're obviously addressing, a less sophisticated legal market with smaller average spend, I would say, but still it's a viable business model, and they're reaching people who previously weren't spending money on lawyers. And so as well as taking clients off high street firms and bigger firms, they're actually creating new demand, and it's through having a massive amount of content. Some of it is not the highest quality, I would say, but, and they don't say it is either, but people still find it informative. It doesn't have to be the definitive guide to, I don't know, negotiating a shop lease, for people still to get benefit of it, because people are often coming off a low base of information. Now, once you've created some content, you really need to get the process starting, and you've got to socialize it. You need to promote it via appropriate channels. So for us, that's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and shamelessly encouraging others to tweet, share, post. So all of our staff have their own Twitter accounts. They're their personal Twitter accounts. So, they own those. They can take those with them when they go. And we don't, there's no approval requirements at Simmonds Stewart required for putting out tweets or posts on LinkedIn or to Facebook groups and that sort of thing. We just encourage our staff to do it. We don't require them to. And, when it comes to Facebook, that's a bit of a difficult one, because it's a bit of a blurred line between your personal stuff and your work stuff. But, from your perspective as CEO, Victoria, have you had any concerns about staff participation in that activity?
Absolutely not. Our staff, we socialise the business development and digital marketing strategy with staff and get their buy-in on it. They know about it. The key for us is actually empowering our lawyers, including junior lawyers, to actually get out there and promote the brand. So no concerns at all.
Cool. And we try and get other people to promote our content. I mean, sometimes this is also referred to as backlinks and that sort of thing. If people will post your content on their website, or if the Law Society promotes a piece of Simmonds Stewart content, like a new launch of templates or something like that, that does generate quite a bit of traffic to the site. It's not as good as organic traffic, but it's still traffic, and Google rewards you for it. And because, the Law Society I'm trying to think which entity, they're quite a trusted, Google gives ratings to the bigger the website in which some content is promoted on, the more trusted it is, the more Google juice you get. So your mum posting a link to your site on her website, there's probably not much Google juice associated with that, there's a little bit. But if you can actually get Wikipedia linking to your site, Wikipedia being one of the most trusted sites, which is interesting because you can create your own Wikipedia page, that's actually heaps of Google juice. So you have to monitor all of this and adjust. So Google Analytics has to be a daily thing for you. So I mean, Google Analytics, the page here, this is yesterday's traffic, and so we had 351 visits yesterday. 149 came from New Zealand, United States was second, Singapore third. That's not an uncommon sort of order, and most of it came from Google, as you can see, but quite a bit from direct as well, because quite a lot of people in New Zealand, as I say, link to our site. And you can see the pages on the right that people are visiting and how long people are on site. And, if you get your dashboard set up well, and this is a dashboard Finn created, you can see in real time who's on your site. So at the time that I took this, we had 2 people from Auckland on our contact page. And I love that because that means probably work coming in, or possibly a cleaning company trying to get Simmonds Stewart's cleaning contract or something like that. But, 50% of the time, somebody on a contact page does result in a work inquiry, which is cool. And when you see people on your team page, you can often see that that's building up some work coming in. I mean, that's interesting. Also, if you push a bit of content, then you can see the effects in real time. So I've got 2 screens on my desk. Everyone at Simmonds Stewart has 2 screens. The thing on my second screen I have is this is always open, and I'm always looking at this. And, I'm also looking at this at home when I'm sitting on the couch and blah, blah, blah. And some people would say, my wife would say that's a bit obsessive, but, I think it's just showing a level of commitment to digital marketing awesomeness. And if you don't spend time looking at the results of what you're doing, then you won't know if what you're doing is working. And that's essentially been critical to us tuning the site to get the results that we're getting. You'll hear, if you go out to market or start talking to your web developers or other people about how to do this, they'll talk to you a lot about search engine optimization. And this is how you tune the hidden stuff on your site to maximize the way your site is laid out, actually, in order to maximize web traffic. And you can spend a lot of money on that. I think a lot of it is just snake oil, or doesn't make that much difference in a small, uncompetitive internet marketplace like New Zealand. What you need is a really good web developer who sets up your website, who uses a tool set that already is automatically has the basic optimizations in place, and then working with them on some basic testing to make sure your website's running well. And one of the key measures is load time. So you want any page on your site to load in less than a second, and ideally faster. And there's some easy tools to measure this. And if you sign up for Alexa.com and track your site on there, you get a monthly site audit. And there's other services that you can do that on that point out all of these deficiencies in your site, and you can send them to your web person and berate them for their bad performance. These things are never static. Like, the performance of your website degrades, and you make changes and that also degrades it. So you keep having to improve it. One of the things we stuffed up with for a while was we had a lot of high-res images, and we hadn't optimized them for the website. And so, it was taking it was taking quite a long time for web pages to download because we had 10 gig images. Now, time's sort of up. Outbound marketing is, I'll carry on for a couple of minutes, but obviously people will just jump off if they get bored or are getting annoyed with me talking. But outbound marketing is still quite important. All law firms should have some sort of newsletter list and send out the newsletters. We do it. Every newsletter always generates some new legal work. What we do is use the newsletter to promote content on our website. So people come to the website to read about the things we tell them about in the newsletter, or to sign up for a new thing, or sign up for a webinar on our site, or to try out a new document maker. So we want to build people's engagement in our website. There's a bunch of tools, so you can go back and read this afterwards. You can see the tools we use. There's lots of different things you can use. If you want to read more about this, probably the definitive guide to content marketing is the HubSpot website. So HubSpot is a software as a service content marketing platform for your website, and you can run your whole website and everything to do with content marketing on it. And they have awesome content about content marketing on their site. And it isn't specific to use of HubSpot, so it's extremely informative. We don't use HubSpot. We use WordPress to host our site, but the principles are sort of the same. If you wanted to learn more about this, and you can educate yourself about this, you don't need to just employ consultants to get you going on this stuff. There's Amazon, there's always books that are useful on Amazon. And, I just did a quick search and found these two. I think I've read the second one of these two. There's always stuff in the books that is not applicable, or that that can get out of date, or that just seems silly. And they're often Americanized, but, you can learn a huge amount, and the investment's small. It's $15 you can read on the bus to work for these books. And there's also, there's lots of books about digital marketing that isn't specific to lawyers, and I read those as well, and the cost of entry to those is low. And you very quickly find you know as much about this stuff as the people that are trying to sell you services in this area. And what's more, you know about your business, and also about how consumers of your business might be looking for you on the internet. And a marketer can't, a marketing and agency is going to struggle with that. The Moz blog is a good sort of resource. It talks a lot about the search engine optimization side of things, and content marketing, and there's some entertaining stuff on there. So, look, that's the hour. If anyone has got any questions, I'm happy to hang around for a bit, as is Victoria, to answer them. But otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and I hope that it's been useful and informative. And if you want to apply for your CPD points, we've just this morning put together a quick tool on our website, which will get us some web traffic. So if you go to the webinar page and click on the Get CPD letter, that should be an automated process to get you your own CPD certificate and Google Juice. So it looks like no questions. I've started a new online firm in Australia. Can I compete with Legal Vision? Well, Shelley, yeah, absolutely. I think you have to try and work out what your differentiation might be in terms of your offering. Like Legal Vision have an incredible platform of content that's going to keep, even if they put out no more content, it's going to just keep them with high search traffic. But they're not going to get, even though they're going to get very high in the search rankings, and be number one of a lot of stuff that people are searching for. If you can get on the first page, people will still click on you. People don't ever just look at one service provider, or it's very rare that they do. So what your goal should be is to just try to get on the first page, and perhaps don't try. The thing with Legal Vision is they're very broad. They're providing all legal services for the small business sector. Now, that's incredibly ambitious. If it was me in Australia, I'd want to focus in on something more specific, deep, to outdo Legal Vision in that specific area of content. So, Finn, can you post a link on this website. And if your email isn't working, you need to use the same email that you registered for this. Actually, take it back. You need to give us 15 minutes in order to enter everyone's emails into our little database, because we're only allowed to give certificates to people who actually attended the webinar. So it's going to be about 15 minutes before that's working. So sorry about that clarification. Somebody said, I missed the beginning, but what are the average costs for AdWords packages? Well, we don't use AdWords. And so I guess our approach is entirely about using content marketing to generate organic visits. We have experimented with AdWords, and you don't have to have a big budget to get traffic with AdWords, but we just don't think it's necessary, and I don't actually think it's creating sustainable value in your brand necessarily either. I'm interested to hear. There's a bunch of law firms that do use AdWords in New Zealand. I'd be interested to see what the return on investment is. But, Legal Vision, as I say, is now something like the 100,000th most trafficked site in the world. And that's, they're only an Australian business, and they got there without any paid advertising. So I'm just not convinced that Google AdWords is necessary if you do content marketing well.
Hey Andrew, just so you know, I'm jumping off now because my laptop is shutting down.
Victoria.
I'm out of juice.
I think we'll just wrap things up there. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening. And sounds like some people at least have found it interesting. You're welcome to email me if you want to carry on the discussion. My email is on our website, which is a bit more website visits for us. And the link for your CPD points will be working shortly. So thanks very much, everyone.